Let's see. Hey, I'm live. There it goes. I was gonna use Restream, but you know.
Cool.
What's up, everybody?
What's going on, Ty?
What's going on?
Hey guys,
Okay.
so this is Cyber Warrior, and we are here with an impromptu live edition of Security Happy Hour. Now, with that, I have a few notes and a few pieces of big news of what's going on. Before we get into that, we've got Alyssa, we've got Ty, and oh God, I forgot your actual name again.
Nicole.
It's Ellen.
Ellen?
All
Oh.
right. I see inverted geek on my screen, so I've got to,
Oh,
I mean, everybody knows her as inverted geek anyway.
Everybody calls me an IG.
Yeah. So we've got three great people on today, and I've got some big news, and it surrounds CyberWarrior Studios and what I'm going for. So I put out on Twitter probably 3 weeks ago now, maybe 4 weeks ago, about a cybersecurity streaming content service, and talking to Davin, and me and Davin clicked immediately last week, or Friday. That was awesome. My intent is to come out with an IT and cybersecurity, so all of IT and cybersecurity streaming platform. For the purpose being, on YouTube, they've been kind of getting a little iffy on the pen testing studies and things of that nature. B, it'll give a centralized location for shows. So we all know cybersecurity and IT shows are really hard to come by on TV, especially the legitimate ones that show, I don't know, actually how the work is done. So those are hard to come by. IT and security news, yeah, you can get it for free in certain places, but I'm trying to centralize all the content into one platform with the added bonus, once I get some partners, an additional fee for vendor training. So FireEye, Splunk, things like that. It'll be an additional ability to get vendor training as well. So that is my goal for Cyber Warrior Studios. That's where I want to take it. And I'm really hoping, and that's why I started Patreon. That's why I've started YouTube, is to do all these things. So that when Davin talked about building the table and making it for everybody, I want to make it for everybody. You've got content, show it. We'll get the subscribers. I don't need YouTube for subscribers. I can put it on there, and people are paying for the service. They're going to get kickbacks anyways to the content creators. Not waiting for 1,000 subscribers or 4,000 watch hours, which apparently, I don't know how many I have in the past year, but it says 100 and some. Blows my mind. I see 3,000 in the past month, and it's saying 100 and some. So the algorithms are all jacked up. Getting you guys found is all jacked up. Things like that. Like, people that want to put out news, want to put out content, is just very difficult. I'm trying to provide a service and be the ability to help build this table so that everybody can be seen, everybody can be heard. We can do shows, news, comedies, whatever you want. Screw a producer. We're going to do it this way. Don't worry about Netflix, anything like that. We'll have our own. We'll make it for us. And that's my goal for Cyber Warrior Studios. That's what I want to get to. So
That's awesome.
I'm going to look for some app developers, maybe even look into how to develop an app myself. So we'll kind of see how that goes, because I've never done application development, so that'll be fun. But anyways, beyond that, that's my spiel. So if you want to support that project, go ahead and sign up for Patreon and help me out there, because everything I get through Patreon will go back into Cyber Warrior Studios, to include, as it says, getting a new computer and camera so that I can make better content for this. But what I want to do is introduce Alyssa, Ty, and Ellen, and get you guys known. I know Twitter already has Alyssa and Ty. You're always doing big things on Twitter. I see you guys all the time. Cover 6 Solutions. Alyssa, I don't know how many times during the year I see you going to some other random talk. Like, it changes every week. I don't know. I don't know. And then Ellen, honestly, this is the first time I've seen your name pop up, so it's great to have you here.
Thank
so
you.
why don't you guys, we'll go around table. Let's start with Alyssa, because you're in the top right-hand corner of my screen. Go Alyssa, Ty, and then Ellen. Introduce yourselves, kind of like how you got started, where you're at, and where you want to get to. And then, we'll open it up for just general fun security conversation.
All right. So how I got started? Do we have like an hour? Oh my God, like,
Give me a
we could go
brief
forever.
run through. All right,
I'll try to give
brief
you the
intro.
condensed version, right? This
Yeah.
is like the I'm sitting in a job interview and I'm going to give you a 5 you know.
Give me your
But
elevator pitch.
right, you know, my 2-minute elevator pitch. Here we go. No, seriously though. So I mean, I've been a hacker all my life. I bought my first computer when I was 12, taught myself how to program, whatever. But I actually never saw like even computers being a career, let alone security, right? I mean, I started as a pre-med major, three semesters of college level chemistry, and I was like, screw this. So I had to do the quick panic, change the major. Okay, what the heck do I do? Look through the course catalog. There's computer science. I'm like, okay, cool. I know how to program. I'll do that. And so now this is where I kind of date myself. But this was like .com boom era, and like companies would hire anybody who knew how to program. So while I was still in school, I got a job as a full-time developer for what we would call today a financial technologies company. And so I did that for 9 years. I worked on their electronic payment platform and then a customer service platform. I programmed everything from C++ to C# to, believe it or not, I did professional level VB. You know, and some Java, JavaScript, PHP, ASP, oh my God, everything, right? And so it was like through that I obviously, you know, it was a big organization and we had this, you know, security team that I worked with pretty regularly. One of the managers comes to me and she goes, you know, asked if I want to join her team. And I'm like, oh, what team is that? She runs the security test team. She wants me to be a pen tester. I'm like, I've never done this. Like, I have no idea. Oh, you're smart. You'll figure it out. Literally, that is what she said to me. And I'm like, okay, shit. Well, if you're that confident I can do it, I'll do it. So kind of a wild way to sort of fall into security, you know, and so I was with that company for 15 years. I actually ended up managing that team for a number of years in their vulnerability management. God, why can't I talk? Their whole vulnerability management program. And then I got into consulting, did that for a while. I worked for a VAR for a while. And then towards the end of last year, someone came to me with an idea for a job that they wanted me for, where I would be, you know, half my job would be traveling and speaking. The other half would be writing blogs and doing research papers and things like that.
That's awesome.
Like, okay, game on. I'm all for that.
Game
like,
on.
I love speaking at conferences. I love getting out and, you know, sharing new ideas and doing research. All this. Are you kidding me? You're going to pay me to do that? Okay, let's go. So I joined Sneak. And of course, then COVID hit and that kind of screwed up all the traveling and that sort of thing. It's been a lot of virtual conferences this year, but that's the long and short of it. I mean, I've been speaking at conferences since 2014 and, you know, I mean, I've been in and out of I've seen a lot of different things if I didn't make that clear. So yeah, that's my not so short, quick and dirty. How did I get into security?
So with that, do you plan on doing anything? Do you have any goals beyond what you're doing now? So is there a point that everybody has to set goals for themselves, right? That's how we keep moving. It's how we keep going. So what's your next goal? Because you're at a position now where you have the option to do the research, to do the, you know, everything that I do in my free time, right? Which is very minimal, but, you know, in my free time. So what's the next phase of where you're trying to get to?
I mean, at some point I'll move back into a leadership position, I think, hopefully with the company I'm with. You know, I mean, I was in leadership positions through, you know, for about the last, God, what was it? Almost 12 years. And in fact, coming to this role was the, like, you know, first time in 12 years that I haven't been in any form of management. And so I think, you know, at some point, you know, I would love to see maybe even that turn into maybe leading an entire security organization. You know, I mean, there's so much that I've seen, so much that I've done. You know, I think that's out there at some point. I mean, I'm obviously not in like a hurry and hunting for it. If
Right.
it happens, it happens. That's where I would like to go. But yeah, I mean, I ran the rat race for a lot of years. I got chased, I chased around, was pushing up the ladder, and then started getting passed over for promotions. And we can talk about that later. But when that starts happening, it's kind of like, well, then forget it. I don't even want to bother, And so when you've got the skills and whatever, and people don't want to, it can't give you a good reason for why you're getting passed over for promotions and things. It's kind of like, all right, well then, I'll look at something else.
Cool. All right, Ty, why don't you tell us where you're at and kind of the same thing. Give us a 2-minute elevator pitch.
Sure thing. It wasn't my first choice, but I joined the military right out of high school. Fortunately for me, my military units were just outstanding network defense units to where we were getting deployed immediately. And prior to deployment, it was about 4 to 5 months of pre-deployment training. So we ended up learning everything: offense, defense, sim tools, hypervisors. So right after the deployments, I had the opportunity to technically still be deployed, but still in the States.
Right.
So my reserve unit was attached to a unit at Fort Belvoir, First Information Operations Command. Their mission turned into a Cyber Op 4 mission. So we were actually training everyone in the unit to be pen testers. I loved it. I ended up being the training NCOIC of that, parlayed a lot of that work into civilian jobs, leading teams of SOC analysts at JTF GNO. I worked at the FBI ESOC on the weekends, Department of Energy. I was just trying to get into as many things as I can. January of 2012, I started a meetup group called the DC Cybersecurity Professionals. It was mainly because I wanted to practice giving IPv6 presentations. But then I realized no one was paying attention to me. So I switched it up. It took us 9 months to get 100 people in the group. I switched it up, started challenging myself to give different topics, right? The group kind of exploded here in the DC area. We're almost 8,000 members now.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's pretty huge. I think it's the country's largest DC meet or cybersecurity meetup.
Well, I say that because if you type in cybersecurity in meetup, our group pops up. So as I was giving presentations, I would get asked to assist on projects. These projects ended up getting bigger and bigger. Before you know it, I'm on a web app pen testing project for healthcare.gov. And then I just parlayed that into a past performance for my company, started training, and started building something that I've always wanted to do. And that was to build something where I can provide as many people as I can an opportunity to be successful. And it's because I know what education and tech can mean for you. I know how it can be life-altering. It is a way to start generational wealth. And I love seeing that light bulb click on. I love seeing people have that passion for it. And whenever I see that, I try to reach out to as many people as I can just to kind of give them that nudge and that opportunity. So Cover 6 ended up getting into a lot of different things, staffing and recruiting. We just started in the MSSP. We've always been doing the vulnerability assessments and pen tests and speaking at conferences. I remember my first submission was at B-Sides GC about 2 or 3 years ago, submitted by SOC Analyst Prep training. They accepted it, just never looked back. And I ended up on some review boards, B-Sides Nova, Howard University, and I just try to embrace. So before, imposter syndrome, I was like, am I really that person that I've always wanted to be when I was in those classrooms 20 years ago, looking up at the instructor, right? Sometimes you just can't fathom that that's you. But year 25, here I am, people like calling me Mr. Wilson. It kind of weirds me out still.
Hey, Mr. Wilson.
Because I still feel like Ty from, from like 15 years ago.
But that's how you're always going to be, man. Like, I mean, I met you through a recruiting agency. Jim Irwin introduced me to you.
Yeah.
So, and not to take anything away from anybody else, but that veteran status is what led me to you. It led me to Jim. It led me to so many other people. Davin, honestly, that's one of the, beyond what he was doing in the field, seeing that vet in his name is one of the reasons I grabbed him, because just like some other personnel in industry, it is hard for vets to get out of the service and make it for themselves in the civilian side. It's especially depending on what you've been doing. So we all have our problems, I guess you could say, but in our issues, and it's different for everybody. And being a veteran, sometimes you're not trained to get out and immediately do something. Like,
it's the worst. It was the worst, not knowing your worth, because you're steadily looking at the Army pay scale for E4s, E5s, E6s, and you're like, what do I even ask for?
Right.
Luckily.
So yeah, man.
Yeah.
Like, I get it, and you'll always be. Look, I call you up all the time, and we talk a lot. So it's great to have you on finally, to be able to talk to other people, and me and you can actually finally see each other and do this. So knowing where you're at, and I know a lot of where you're at and what you've done with DC Meetup, with Cover 6, where do you want to go? Where do you want to take Cover 6? Where do you want to take yourself as far as goals?
Yeah. Honestly, I want to be someone that's looked upon in the industry as well-rounded technically, and as someone that has the ability and the connections to make things happen.
Okay.
No matter what that may be. Right.
And that makes sense, because you have that, and I've noticed that about you. You've always been willing to help others. And I've seen that with Alyssa. I've seen that with Shannon. I've seen that with Davin, and a lot of the other people I've talked to. It's that something about not all members of the community, which I talked about last week with Shannon and Davin, but a lot of members of the community where we just want to help. We want to help people be seen, be heard, be found, be employed, whatever the case may be. And Ty, you offered me several, me and you have talked on several occasions about if something comes up and I'm able to do it, like, I got you. Like, and it's been that way. And I've seen you with your DC meetups and your classes. So I think that's something that, I don't know if it's ingrained in a lot of the cybersecurity community as a whole, but it's ingrained in a lot of people that I've talked to, whether that just be because of cybersecurity and knowing where we've come from, or if it's just I've lucked out and talking to good people. Like, the problems others have had, I've seen gatekeepers, like I talked about it last week. We've all seen them, but I have found good people to surround myself with that have always been willing to help. I don't buy into, oh, I'll help you, but then I'm gonna go do something else. Like, I just don't. I can feel that personality in people, and it's something I've never been involved with, but I understand where everybody else has come from, because I know it's out there and I see it. So seeing you guys and hearing where you guys want to go, I feel it. Alyssa, I've seen you on so many things, and you're I swear you blow up my Twitter feed more than anybody else half the time. And Tyrone, you've been doing huge things, and Cover 6 has been amazing for a lot of people. And the training, it isn't even like it's expensive. Like, people that are looking for training, by the way, if you want training, you're in the DC DMV area, get a hold of Cover 6, look up Cover 6 Solutions. They're always doing good stuff. So that's just the way it is. Ellen, let's go to you.
Let's go.
I know you're new to the field. I know you're doing a bunch of stuff, trying to find your way. So how did you find your way to cybersecurity as a career? as your career choice?
So it's I guess kind of non-traditional, but it's funny that the more I get to know people in the more I get to know people in the industry, the more I find out that there's a lot of people that have taken really similar paths to me as me. I didn't go to college right out of high school because I didn't know what I wanted to do with myself. So I just kind of started working. I worked retail and, did whatever I could do for a while. I eventually decided to go back to school. My official degree title was physics with a pre-health attribute because I did want to go to med school. After working full time and taking a lot of credits at the same time, I burned out. And it was about probably 80 to 100 credits into my degree. I kind of burned out on it and I took 2 years off. And then one day I was kind of sitting on the couch watching TV and I saw an ad I saw something about cybersecurity and I was like, oh, I can do this because I grew up, my dad's a geek. So, I mean, I think my family was like the first one that had a computer on our block back in the day and, a dot matrix printer. And, so I like a little bit aging myself.
Navigator for the win.
Heck yeah, I did.
Don't date myself there.
And I mean, and I remember my dad like bringing home a Palm Pilot, and I wanted to play with it and write with cool stylus on the Palm Pilot and everything. And so I've been exposed to technology my whole life. I haven't been, coding and doing a lot of that. Part of that I think was the whole girls being in computers don't want to be a nerd, you want to be cool kind of thing. And anyway, I thought about it and I was like, well, it's something like I could probably do online, which was, I have to work and everything. And I mean, I'm telling you, for my first day of classes, I fell in love. And it was the first time in however many years after I graduated high school that I was like, I'm doing what I need to be doing. So I worked in healthcare for like the last 10 years in kind of different aspects of it. I've been everywhere from customer facing to more clinical roles. And so I think what I bring to security is that empathy and that customer service and, the ability to kind of be a liaison with people. I've managed people before. So, what I may or may not lack technically, I can certainly make up for in soft skills. So it's just kind of, that's kind of where I'm at.
So you said one of the keywords there that's missing in a lot of IT and a lot of cybersecurity, and that's soft skills. Soft skills is huge, and a lot of people don't realize that. Everybody just thinks, oh, I'm a pen tester, I can do everything. Can you write a report? Can you talk to CISOs and the exec levels? And for people that are younger and getting into it, it is hard for them to realize that those are important. So they just think technical, and they never develop those skills. One of the things that I learned when I was in high school going through business academy was how to switch my how I speak to people based on who I'm talking to. I've done business plans. I've done business presentations. So I was able to do presentations and completely change my speech patterns and just how I talk. Now, I've always talked fast, but I was able to articulate better. And then getting in the military, I did 13 years in the military, and it has been huge. And we've got a comment. Ross wants to know, can we talk to people who aren't tech? And yes, I've had to do that, Ross, to where you have to be able to take the information, and I don't want to say break it down kindergarten style, but you got to break it down in such a way that they'll get the message without losing the details. And so that is something that is very important and a lot of people lack. So soft skills, even though your technical abilities may not be at some of the top tier levels yet, you have something that those at those levels don't have, and that's soft skills, the ability to talk to people, the ability to relate to people, and the ability to write. So as you do your technical training and get through, I think you will be perfect because you have that background of soft skills, and all it's going to take is working your way up the chain in terms of technical ability. And Alyssa, you've seen it from where you started. Ty, you've seen it from where you started. Alyssa, what's your opinion on that?
So, yeah, I mean, this is timely discussion because we just had a thread pop up on Twitter today someone asked, I think it was somebody who's getting ready to start a blog, and she asked, what's one thing that, you'd like to see talked about or brought into security or whatever, one skill that you want, you think we need more of in security, something like that. And my answer was empathetic communication.
I commented on that one. I
thought that.
This is the thing. It's like, you were right there. It's great to have the technical skills, and you got to have the technical skills. But honestly, one of the issues, and you know me, so my whole thing right now, more than anything else, is I am all about trying to get more people into this field. And I talked about it at DEF CON. I'm writing a book on it, for crying out loud. I did some research at the beginning of the year that I'm going to be writing a report. I swear to God, I'm going to get it out at some point.
Send it to me.
But, yeah, of course, it'll be, it's coming. I promise. But no, technical skills are important, but we're so hyper-focused on hiring people with technical skills. It's why we see these terrible job descriptions. It's why we have hundreds of thousands of people looking to get jobs, but businesses complaining that they have millions of unfilled positions in this big talent gap. There's a disconnect there. And the problem is we're so focused on the technical stuff, we forget how important it is to get people who can actually communicate.
But with those technical skills, so you talked about the job descriptions. With that, not only are soft skills an issue, and I think we can all agree on that. And Ty, if you want to, chime in, I think you can agree on that as well, that soft skills are an issue. But the job descriptions are so blown out of proportion for a lot of these jobs that they're looking for a freaking pink unicorn in the middle of the rainforest for a job. And it's, I see it. It's awesome. But that's what they're looking for. And when you're seeing something like, and I get it, security should not be an entry-level gig. Everybody wants to make security, hey, I want to go to college and then jump into being a security analyst. It's not entry-level. There's so much more to it if you don't know networking and being on a help desk and doing the IT. But if you know that stuff and can do security, that's cool. I'm all for it. Or, hey, I went to college and I want to be a pen tester. Okay, so do you know ports? Do you know port security? Do you know any ways to bypass any of these things? Or are you just trying to jump into the deep end of the pool? But you don't ask for a CISP or a GX certification, something that businesses should be paying for, because let's face it, it's like $8,000 to take a SANS course. You don't ask for those things for a junior level analyst or a junior level anything. That should be at least mid-tier. Am I wrong?
Not about that, but
No.
I do disagree with the one thing you said. And that is when you said that security is not an entry-level job. Because this is where I see is the biggest problem. The model that we have for hiring security talent today is completely unsustainable. You cannot sustain a talent pool with the way that we assume that every security role has to have all of this experience. And in order to fill security jobs, we have to have people who know this wide range of technology. It's the way we've hired for security forever. And security, we see it as so critical. I mean, it's a good sign in that we see it so crucially.
Right.
But here's the thing. You can't sustainably do that for a lot of the reasons you just mentioned, right? Organizations need to be investing in actually incubating that talent, bringing people from areas that may be non-traditional. It's why, the talk I mentioned before from DEF CON's Career Hacking Village, my talk was from a barista to cybersecurity. And literally I can justify to you, and I do in that talk, how a barista has very useful skills that apply to cybersecurity roles. Now, is a barista going to turn right into a pen tester? Probably not. But there are cybersecurity roles where that barista's talents fit right in.
Right.
And all you need is to invest in the technical side of it. So even thinking back to that whole soft skills thing, that's where it's like we have too much emphasis on the technical side of it. If I can find somebody with technical aptitude, in other words, they can learn technical things, but they have other skills that position them well for a job, that's the person I want to hire. I can teach them the technical stuff. A lot of that other stuff is the stuff that's hard to teach. I know great pen testers who, to your point before, can't explain it to anybody what they just did. Right. And that's useless.
Right. Ty, you want to chime in on this?
Like, I meet so many talented people that can't get a job. It's infuriating. Can we curse?
Yes, dude. I'm not monetized. Go ahead. Why do you think I have a Patreon? Why do you think I told you I want to start when I want to start? Which, by the way, for those watching it now and haven't seen the beginning, Cyberwarrior Studios, you donate to Patreon. We are getting a streaming service. I'm going to make it happen.
It's just a shitty situation that I disagree with wholeheartedly because, with the meetups, like, it's rooms full of people that can't get hired, and I just don't understand it. You talk to them, their skills are there, they can communicate, they're there technically, they're passionate about these things, they're literally doing everything that they were told that they need to do as far as getting their certs, go to meetups, go to conferences, get on Twitter, get a LinkedIn account. They're doing all of these things, but somehow when they get to the interview to like getting a job, it's just not happening.
Is it them or is it the company, you think?
So I can tell you that, like, I've been on the other side of the hiring managing process, and I can tell you that they're essentially trying to maximize the position because of the work that they're bidding for, right?
Okay.
Like, there's all of these companies that's bidding for this work, and in order to win the work, you're literally like low bidding everyone else. But because you're low bidding everyone else, you have to try to maximize your talent to make up for that. And as Alyssa was saying, like, it's unsustainable because, one, it's going to be hard to get that talent. And then two, they're probably not going to stay at that pay rate, right? So these companies are just steadily looking to try to get these unicorns, so to speak, and they're not even going to stay for a year or a year and a half. And it's just shitty.
So with that, and Ellen, as you're going through this now, I'm going to let you speak to it.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I got a job. So before the job I have now, the company I worked for previously, they hired me for the reasons you guys are talking about. I did not have ESM experience. I did not have logarithm experience, but I became a senior security engineer because of my ability to learn and my passion for the job. There's not a lot of companies out there like that. And it comes down to, well, it's going to come down to a few things. A, passion and technical aptitude. But then things we talked about last week or Friday, cultural fit, which is what's plays an important role these days, in that people are looking at looks or name or whatever as opposed to attitude, willingness to learn, and passion. And I think that is where, when people talk cultural fit, cultural for the company, like mine was all veteran, like we were vets. That's the majority of the company were vets. My boss was a vet. My coworker was a vet. I had a few other coworkers. Some were, some weren't. But I get the point of, when you throw that cultural fit around, you can lose out on people. And so I can understand that concept on losing out, because maybe, cultural fit doesn't mean we hire a woman. Well, why not? Does she have the technical aptitude? Does she have the passion for the career field? Does she have the ability to learn? Like, all these things, or whatever the case may be. So I can see how that term can get twisted in such a way where they don't think culture means being able to talk to the team and interact and be friendly and go out for a drink, where they think culture means, oh, you're not this. you're that. You know what I mean?
I think I know what culture means. And I got a terrible, well, not terrible, but my culture fit experience. 5 people in the room that were interviewing me. 4 people were at the table. The 5th person sat over there and just stared at me the whole interview. And I was told that was the culture fit person.
And that's ridiculous. So Ellen, give us your take, man. Like, what have you seen so far going through? Like, have you applied to jobs and gotten interviews and been told no? Have you gotten any feedback? Because I know that's a huge issue too, of not getting feedback on, hey, what did I do wrong? Why did this not work out? So what are you seeing as you go for these?
So I've only had a couple of interviews so far. I feel like I'm doing all the right things. I've had a lot of people look at my resume. I'm in college. I'm working full time, so I don't always have time to do like the extracurricular, like CTFs. I've done NCL and stuff, you know, as much as I can to my abilities. But I think only recently one of my resumes finally got through the robots.
And that's the problem. And that's the
on its own accord.
That's the other issue. So that's why I tell people to get on LinkedIn and Twitter. And it's not, it is not to find a job. It's to get your resume past HR. I have a buddy, not going to lie, that literally got a job at SpaceX because I told him to talk to the security director or whoever the hiring manager was for a role and introduce himself. And it sucks that you have to go through that, because why are automated scans looking for certs or degrees or anything and not just saying, like, hey, here's all your resumes? I get it. There's a lot of people applying for jobs. I get it. There's a lot of, you know, things out there. But if you don't look at what somebody's doing and what they've done to get to where they're at, you're not seeing the person. You're seeing certs and degrees, which, let's be honest, with some of the certs out there, you can take a test down, pass it, and not know a lick about what the hell a Security Plus is. I mean, we see it in the military all the time because of 8570 or whatever they want to number it now. But, you know, I've seen people pass Security Plus, and you ask them what port 443 is, and they're like, I don't know. What's RAM? I don't know. You're your help desk. You should know these things. I don't know. What the hell are you doing here? So, what do we do to get past that beyond just trying to reach out to the hiring manager? I mean, is that really our only path at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most frustrating things for me is that the fact that I'm pivoting from a career currently that's not tech. So I have like, there's like 2 Ellens. There's like Muggle Ellen, and then there's infosec Ellen. And like, so from 9 to 5, I'm Muggle Ellen, and then I have to come home and I do my homework and I like switch into infosec Ellen mode. And I'm like, okay, now ports and security and all this other stuff, you know, and it gets kind of exhausting sometimes. So, you know, I had an interview recently that I was kind of disappointed in myself, because I get really nervous about the technical stuff since I am newer to like the technical side of things. So I get really nervous about technical interviews. And so I tried to be as prepared as I could be, but I totally whiffed on some softball questions, things that I've learned in the past that maybe it's 2 or 3 terms ago, and I just finished like my 3rd class on some CISSP stuff. So that pushed some stuff out of my brain. When I'm not using it every day, like it's still there, but I fumble on it, especially because I'm nervous. So I have had technical interviews before, though, that have been kind of written, and they're like, here, I'm going to email you this technical thing, you know, take some time, work on it, send it back to me in like 48 hours, and we'll go from there. And I did much better on that because it's just the way I am. Like a lot of rapid fire technical questions, you know, I stayed calm under pressure, but I was able to perform a little bit better when I had time to like think about it. And so I think part of that is, you know, hiring managers and companies kind of need to realize that there are people that, you know, perform differently. And maybe if you can kind of do the same technical interview, like in a couple of different ways, like, would you rather do it this way or this way? Or, you know, I mean, I understand that some jobs are very like high pressure and you need to do that. And so you can still do it orally, but also say, hey, I'm going to give this to you.
I gotta say, I have gotten lucky recently with the jobs I had. The first job out of the military, I had at the time 4 SAN certifications, my CEH, like I had a slew of certs. I had the alphabet after my name, and I was getting paid $60,000 a year, which for some people that's a lot. For me, coming out of the Army where you're supposed to be making $80,000 to make what you make in the Army as far as benefits and things go, wasn't a lot. And then I got my CISP while I was there, and it was within a month of me being there. And they were still kind of like, and I'm like, all right, cool. So when I found my second job, they hired me based on what I knew or what I can do. Not, and when they did the interview, they even flat out told me, they were like, if you need to Google it, you can Google it. Like, we understand that IT and cybersecurity is you can't memorize it all. There's no way you can remember everything. So they were very much like, hey, just tell us you need to look it up real quick and we'll let you find the answer. Because that's the big part about it is we don't know everything. And so many people want to sit there and say, oh, I'm an expert. I know everything. I can do it all. And, oh, we got Andrea joining. And so when they say that, how you doing, Andrea?
Hi.
So when they say that, we look at it and it's like, look, you can't remember it all. So feel free to look it up and just let us know. So I have been on interviews and I've told a lot of people, if you don't know, tell them you don't know. And I have done that in several interviews where I'm just like, look, I remember learning it. I know I can find it, but I just can't remember. And so if a company
I'm definitely not afraid of that. I definitely did that.
Yeah, if a company isn't going to hire you,
they appreciated that. They said, like, that's what we want you to do because we all share information and nobody's, no man's an island, and And
if a company's not going to hire you based on those answers, then they're not worth working for. And that's the same thing I've told to a lot of other people, is if a company's not going to hire you based on how you look or the way you dress or if you have tattoos or whatever the case may be, ain't worth working for them. Because guess what? Hold up. Andrea, you ain't the only one. Hold on. I can go on. So it's all good. Or Alyssa. So it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter who you are. If a company is not going to hire you for you, deuces, there's the door. See you later. I don't need to work here. Because you are who you are. Now, do we have to change that perspective and change the way people perceive us? I mean, come on now. Everybody thinks a hacker wears a hoodie. Don't get me wrong. I got a black hoodie around here somewhere. I think it's hanging out there. But everybody perceives us that way. So why you're hiring someone that should be in a hoodie all day, apparently. So why does it matter the way I look? And
we've done a lot of disservice as from corporate America and how we bring people into cybersecurity. I mean, I've got a career that goes back basically 2 decades, right? I mean, 15 years of it was security, before that in programming. And I can tell you, 15 years ago, the complaint was that, there were no cybersecurity degrees. We weren't doing anything to, it was blame academics. Then it was all about the certs. Everybody, we need certs, but what happens is organizationally we keep moving the target, right? It's we need to have cybersecurity degrees, so people started getting cybersecurity degrees. All these different universities came out with these programs, and people started taking them. They started coming with degrees. They're like, no, you got to have these certs. So people started getting certs, and they got every cert under the sun. And we told them, no, you got to have passion. So people did all these things to try to show their passion. And now it's, you got to have all this experience before you ever walk in the door as security. Because, entry-level cybersecurity role means you have to have 5 years of experience. What?
How do you get 5 years experience in an entry-level security role?
Right. And that's just it. We don't, within this structure, provide a map or any type of guidance that's useful on how people should get into a cybersecurity career. And the things that piss me off at experienced people in cybersecurity who will have somebody come to them and ask them for help on getting into this career. If you ever tell somebody that the way to get into a cybersecurity degree or into a cybersecurity career is to have passion, I'm going to come hunt you down, and I'm going to do something violent to you. If you tell somebody that the only way to get a job is you got to have some cybersecurity certification, I'm going to come hunt you down, because that is useless. That is garbage advice that people give people. And the reason they do it is because, oh, that's how I got into security 10, 15 years ago.
So it changes all the time, though, Alyssa, and that's the thing. You said it right. They keep moving the goal line, right? What it takes, and it really comes down to the company, and because some companies, like I said, I got hired based on the technical aptitude and the passion to learn, right? That's how I got hired, and because I love the career field, but no company's the same. So what I tell people, and it is what I tell people when they come to me and they're like, I'm getting out of college, what do I do? I'm like, you shouldn't have never gone to college, because by the time you get out, the shit you learned is useless. But what I tell people is, do your blogs, do your YouTube videos, do everything you can to show you know what you know, because that put that shit right at the top of your resume. Here's my blog site, here's my YouTube channel, here's my LinkedIn. I don't care. Put that there, because then some people have somewhere to go to see, they really know what they're doing. You don't have to have enterprise experience. You don't have to have company experience. But guess what? You can prove to people, guess what? This is what I do. This is who I am. And
that's how you document all that. I did this in my lab. I did this
exactly.
CTF. That's how you document it, to make it tangible and to make it credible when you're looking for a job.
And so, I told people a lot of times, like, hey, do you like coding and scripting? Get a GitHub, put your GitHub link on there, make it public, because they'll see it. And they're like, oh, that's gatekeeping. I had someone tell me it's gatekeeping for telling them that you have to write down what you've done. And I'm like, how's that gatekeeping? I'm like, that's showing you know what you know.
That's how to sell yourself.
That's how you sell your talent and your capabilities. I should just get a job because I shouldn't have to do all that. What are you getting a job for? Who's going to hire you if you can't speak to what you know? And the easiest way to get the interview and speak to what you know is to publicize it. Make it public. Put that shit on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. I don't care. YouTube, you name it. Blast that everywhere. Because guess what? Someone's going to find you, and someone's like, this person really knows their shit. I want to call them. I want to hire them right meow.
So can we get Andrea to introduce herself? I know
yes,
she popped
please.
in late.
Andrea, you came in a little bit late. Please tell us about yourself, where you're at, what you're doing, kind of, the spiel.
Yeah, and Alyssa, I think you're the only one I know here, so glad to meet everybody. I'm Andrea. Glad we're talking about careers, because I am feeling like I'm at a crossroads. I've had a long talk with Melissa a few times, and how do I explain? My work is, I accidentally learned how to hack support groups.
Nice.
And specifically Facebook groups, and that landed a congressional inquiry, and it was the scariest. I'm 2 years in, I'm feeling defeated. You hear my 4-year-old in the other room. I'm about to be a kindergarten teacher, not by choice, but by the pandemic. I'm gonna have to, I'm just so depleted right now. I'm just so tired, and hold on one second. I don't mean to. Of course, anytime I talk on a conference call, I
got 5 boys. I got 5 boys.
Oh, you do? Oh my gosh.
My wife handles that. That's why I did this at 10 o'clock at night, to put them to bed.
Anybody in kindergarten?
Yeah, I got my 5-year-old in kindergarten. I still got a 3-year-old, and then I got 3 older boys. So, yeah. Hold on one second. I'll be right back. I'm sorry to interrupt my introduction, but basically, I found a vulnerability in Facebook's group architecture. It was all over the news a couple years ago. It was not fully addressed by the FTC and the $5 billion settlement. We're still fighting. I am desperately trying to get patient groups off of Facebook because it's not safe, and they keep forming even with COVID. We've got new Facebook groups popping up every day, and it's incredibly easy to hack them. And to terrorize them and to do very bad things to people going through trauma. And I want that to stop. So, I started nonprofits. I am very tired. I have no resources. I am burned out.
and I'm just trying to think about, you know, this has become my path, my passion. I love what I do. And I did my very first capture the flag, Alyssa, at DEF CON at the biohacking village. And it was this weird moment where I was doing the capture the flag with a team of e-patients, and this e-patients is like a bunch of patients who are advocates who live at the intersection of health and technology. And some of them, you know, I'm trying to get into cybersecurity because we need more patients as a voice. And it was this moment where I was doing one of the like challenges, like one of the solves, and it was my my vuln was in the capture the flag. Nice. And I was like, yeah, I was like, wait, this is my first one. This is really weird. I fell out of my chair. So that's my story. It's a strange story. I'll be right back. I gotta see what
McKinnon. All right. We'll see you in a minute. Right back. So Ty, tell me, like, what's your take on what's going on? Like, how do we? And I asked this to Shannon and Davin last week, and I'm sure everybody else is gonna have their own take on it. But how do we improve the cycle of hiring in cybersecurity? I mean, you've got Cover 6, you're doing a lot, but how do we improve it? What do we do? How do we change the mentality? How do we change how hiring is done? Because my take, like, honestly, my take on it is quit hiring CISOs that have a degree in basket weaving and absolutely no sense of cybersecurity at all, putting out job recs. Like, that's my take, and I could be wrong, but what do we do as someone who owns a company? Like, how do we change the mentality?
Wow. So I think a lot of it is the level of expectation from those outside of the company looking at the employees in the company. Any little thing that goes wrong, like, everyone's held to this standard to where, like, there can be no issues with your network. Like, you can't get hacked, you can't get exploited, compromised, what have you, and still keep your respect and dignity. So therefore, what's happening is these companies are trying to do all they can to ensure that never happens, which ends up being them looking for the best possible talent that they can possibly
for the least amount of money.
Right. And it's just, this, I guess you can call it this subconscious level of pressure that these organizations literally put on each other that just doesn't compute with me.
So for those of us in cybersecurity, though, we understand that the only secure computer is the one that's unplugged in a bunker, like 6 feet under, concrete and surrounded by metal. Like, that's really the only way to be unhackable. And yes, I've had people try to tell me, oh, my operating system's unhackable. No, it's not. But with that being the case, if do people not realize this? Do people think that, like, this shit's always secure? Like, oh, I have AV or CrowdStrike. Like, I have an EDR solution and a SIM and 10 firewalls and an IDS and an IPS. Like, I have all this stuff, so you can't break in. Do you think that's really the mentality behind some of these companies?
No, I wouldn't necessarily say that. And I can just speak to, the companies that are in this area in DC. There's a lot of competition here, like an obscene amount of competition. And I feel like within that company structure, like, they're still competing with each other to see who has the best employees. I feel like that's going on a lot.
Well,
right?
You'll see that I think you'll see that in DC because of the units that are there. Now, as well as I know who is in DC and who is in the different states across the country. Do you feel that plays a role?
Definitely. But the thing is, it just feels like this revolving rotation of of jobs that are going around from analyst to analyst. And I just feel like you don't even need to try to hold folks to that standard all the time. Right? There's positions to where you can give someone an opportunity that they won't even risk that on. And it just doesn't make sense. Yeah.
So are we selling FUD? Is that really where we're at, where we're selling FUD and saying fear, uncertainty, and doubt? So these companies are selling FUD, like, because you look, MSSPs are becoming huge. EDR is becoming huge, or MDR rather. So all these things are becoming huge. So are we selling fear and bringing people in to try to combat that fear for these clients? So in order to do that, you have to have the personnel where they're like, all right, I need you to know how to do Python scripting and C++ and reverse engineer malware. And, you know, I need you to know how to basically do everything.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're only going to be doing log analysis. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So in all fairness, from what I'm seeing around here, in order to be like considered proficient, like you do need to be, you do need to have a certain level of technical expertise, because an entry-level position in this area is not a normal entry-level position, right? Because of it's a really weird thing to say, but sometimes the entry-level folks here in this area get put to pretty much defending the network in their first week. Right. So it's I don't know. It's just
so Alyssa, what's
at a loss for words right now.
What can we do to fix things? Where are we at? You do all these talks. You've met all these people. Let's help Ellen out and Andrea and the things they're going through. Like, what can we do to fix the situation? What can we do to really improve, at least here in the States, how we change the mindset to how we hire people?
Well, there's really... Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, to say for something that's going to be helpful for for Andrea or Ellen, it's there's only so much candidates can do right now, but there are strategies. I mean, it's Ellen brought up the ATS before, and the whole idea of how do you get your resume past an ATS, and there's actually applicant tracking system for we talk about the robots that look at your resumes. There are things that you have to be aware of. And so just educating people on here's how you address that. Educating people on how to read and recognize some of the stupid tricks that go on with these job descriptions. And when does 3 to 5 years of experience really mean 3 to 5 years of experience? Or should you apply anyway? So there's a lot of that, just shoot your shot no matter what. But the real fix here is from the organizational side. And, you and Ty kind of touched on it moments ago. The problem is you think about, let's compare hiring a developer to hiring a security professional. When I'm going to hire a developer, I can hire a junior developer knowing that they're going to make mistakes, and I'm going to count on my QA teams and other people to find those bugs, and we'll go back and fix them. Or they'll show up in production. Hopefully they won't be so bad because we've already worked with that QA team to get rid of the worst ones. Something slips through. Our production environment's resilient. We can recover from it. We can deal with it. Cybersecurity, we don't approach that way. Security, we approach it that we have to be perfect in security every single time because one bug means we get breached. Now, the problem with that is that doesn't work. We go out and we're going to hire all these super, the unicorns of the world. We're going to hire all these great people who have all this experience. And this is why I say it's not sustainable, because you're going to hire all those great people. And you know what? Your ass is still going to get breached because it doesn't work. That's the thing, we are not perfect at security.
You're hiring people that do
here's
this
the
stuff,
thing.
But how do you combat it? Like, what do you...
That's where I'm headed. So we're starting to see some motion in this, right? Like NIST is kind of starting to get there with this whole idea of screw perfect security. We need to be resilient. And that's what has to happen, is we need to understand, first of all, that these kinds of things are going to happen. and we're going to have vulnerabilities in production. Some of them might get breached, but how do we focus on resiliency? The second piece of it is there's this slowly growing awareness and at least lip service being paid to the fact that diversity is important in security.
It is.
I mean, look at Andrea, who joined us, and she's telling us about how I've never even been in security. I was this patient advocate and happened to figure out how the hell to hack a Facebook group. And suddenly I'm testifying before congressional hearings on the subject, right? So that right there is testament to the fact of what diversity means to our people. And so I'm going to say something. This is my hot take for the moment. We need to stop hiring cybersecurity professionals, period. We need to stop looking for cybersecurity professionals and start looking for people with expertise and skill sets that actually apply to our ability to be resilient. Do they understand this technology? Do they understand this business model? Do they understand how to communicate these things? That's what we need to be hiring for. And we need to start thinking about it in those terms that, hey, I can hire a junior cybersecurity person. I know they're going to make mistakes, but I've developed my security program in a way that I'm resilient so that when they make a mistake, we can recover from it the same way we recover from a software bug.
And I can understand that aspect of things. And I see where you're going with that, with having the resilience, having the ability to bounce back, because my father, who works in GRC, is all about, disaster recovery plans, business recovery plans, business continuity planning, incident response. And even now I'm working on an incident response plan and things like that for the company I work for. And so that really plays a role in being able to change the way people think, because anybody who knows anything about security knows that it's impossible to go without being hacked. And I saw a saying years ago, and I still feel it's true to this day. There's only two types of companies out there: those that have been hacked and those that don't know it yet. And so if you look at it, the ability, like ransomware, especially with COVID coming, and the way they've fed on people's fears to spread this, has become, it's almost become double what it was when it first came out with WannaCry and everything else like that. It's just spreading like wildfire. I mean, I swear it's like every other day I hear about another company being breached. And so with that, how do you bounce back? Do you have your backup plan, or are your backups fried because you had them tied to your actual network? Like, how do you combat that? And I think you're right. We need to be more resilient, knowing that nobody is perfect. Everybody wants somebody to be perfect, but nobody is perfect. I'm sorry, working as a security engineer, there is no analyst in the world that is going to be able to look and create every alarm for every IOC and everything that's possible to completely 100% prevent you from being breached. It's just impossible.
Do you guys know what the Maginot Line is?
The what?
Maginot Line.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of it. I don't know exactly.
So I'm gonna do you know so there's this, I love this person. Her name is Renee DeResta. I gotta find this. I'll send it in the chat. But one of the things I've learned, sitting next to, who Sushi Do is, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I was in a meeting
from MITRE
with some of the leading like cybersecurity people in the world that deal in or work in healthcare, right? And I am a total noob, and I'm sitting in this meeting, and I'm meeting Steve for the first time, and they're talking about CVEs. And I raise my hand. I'm like, "What's a CVE?" And by the end of that meeting, I was up there whiteboarding like all of this shit and talking about how cancer variant classification behaves a lot like classifying CVEs or tracking them. And I learned something from that, and so did he. It was, I'm very angry and frustrated because I live at this intersection of social networks and healthcare where there aren't any cybersecurity people at all. I'm like at the, I because of my lived experience as a I'm a mutant. I have a BRCA mutation, which is the thing, like it's, and that's how I became an advocate 8 years ago. And I have this background in technology and passion for data sharing. So I'm layering all these things on my lived experience, my identity, some professional experience. But what I started out when I first found this, I thought it would be fixed and everybody would just jump in to help in like 6 months. I thought it would be done in 2 months. Right. And here I am 2.5 years later, still fighting. And the pandemic hit and things have only gotten worse. Not only have they only gotten worse, I'm watching, because my communities are not an abstraction to me. Hospitals think of patient populations as just data. And what I see are, women with my shared identity suffering, some of them dying of COVID. I've been to my 5th funeral since COVID hit because we're a high risk population. And that lived experience also translates over into a very good understanding what threat models are for our community that aren't well understood by the clinical system, nor are they understood by the social networks that design their shit.
Right.
And that there, I think, in lies, when I went through the first capture the flag, there was this moment where I started learning how fragile medical devices were and how easy they were, basically as easy to hack as Facebook. And here I was thinking, oh, I'm just, a one-trick pony. This isn't really that, this is, what I found, anybody could have found. But at the same time, then I heard Steve's story of when he first started that process of putting a science behind CVEs and how it didn't exist. The process didn't exist before him. I was able to kind of let go of some of this anger. Why hasn't everybody in cybersecurity just jumped in and fixed this?
Well, to your point right there, Andrea, and sorry to stop you, but I've said that in private, talking to my father and other people in security for quite some time now, about why is the cybersecurity field, when you look at when people get hired, you look at Google, Apple, Juniper, Palo, you name it, you name the people out there that are creating cybersecurity defenses, CrowdStrike and all that. Why is it we're all trying to be independent and create our own product instead of secure a network by combining knowledge? And that is my big thing, is why is it we have to be, and I get it, don't get me wrong, money makes the world go round and everybody wants to make a buck, but why do these things? You know what I mean?
Well, I just posted this, I love this blog post by Renee DiResta, and so in World War II in France,
they have blog post. So anybody who's watching, go ahead and copy that fun blog post down. It's in the corner of the screen. I'll let you guys go and copy that while it's there. But go ahead.
It's all about how in World War II in France, their defense system was this very rigid, expensive, fancy-looking way of handling defense. And the second that there was a real threat and a real war, everybody went around the Maginot Line, and it basically failed because there was so much, I guess, I know there's the term security theater, but I feel like, in a lot of ways, the way we set up cybersecurity, Alyssa, is in kind of like the Maginot Line. It's not, there's so much money going into it, and yet the investment is for these fancy looking bells and whistles.
It's the blinky lights. You gotta have the blinky lights, Andrea.
And here I am, this unarmed village in the middle of like right at the Maginot Line, getting invaded and watching what happens in real time to the people who are living through being under siege. And nobody can hear it, nobody can see it. And I'm still trying to, I guess that's the only way I can describe it. Like that's
so you're spot on. I mean, being where you're at, the healthcare industry as a whole has a lot of growth to do with embedded devices and things like that. Ellen, before we go, because I just realized what time it is, and people have been on live for 75 minutes now. Give me a question, anything that you have that, you know, Ty and Alyssa can answer for you, or even myself, that, you know, something you're struggling with as it is.
I guess off the top of my head, going back to something I said I was struggling with earlier, what advice would you give to me and other career changers that can help them with like technical interviewing? Like people like me who may have the soft skills and can talk to people and can nail an interview on a person-to-person basis, but just like lock up and get so afraid of what they're going to ask you technically.
Well, you got to have that passion.
Yeah.
Alyssa's gonna hunt you down.
I'm gonna fight
She's gonna hunt you down.
Man, I am not happy now.
Bingo.
I knew it was coming. I saw his look. He was gonna say something.
Close-in skills. I'm gonna find out what
Set you up for that.
Yeah.
I set it up.
It just comes with practice, you know, and just being confident in what you know and what you don't know. And like you said earlier, you said you didn't have trouble saying or admitting to what you don't know. I've had people tell me that I really don't care what they don't know. I just don't want them to lie to me.
Yeah.
Right? Just don't lie to me. And I can tell you when I interview, I normally go until the candidate doesn't have an answer, because I want to see what they're going to do when they don't have an answer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, yeah.
Let me look it up.
So I'll say there's two types of technical interviews. There's the technical interviews that are a lot like what Ty just mentioned, where the people are smart. And what they're really trying to figure out is, do you know your shit, or how do you respond when you don't? And they're not really looking at the context of, did you answer the questions right? Then on the other hand, you have the ones where there are people, and I'm sorry, some of the biggest, baddest names in the tech industry do this, and it's garbage, where they put you through a technical interview where they actually score it, and if you don't answer all the questions right, whatever, trust me, those are companies you don't want to work for anyway, if that's how they're going to do it. Here's the thing with the technical interviews, is going in there and being able to, if someone asks you a question about something you don't know, being able to say, first of all, you know what, that's not something I know, or that's not something I've heard of before. Based on what you said, though, this is kind of what it sounds like to me, or I would imagine it might be this. That's an effective thing to do. Or if you don't really know that much about it, but you kind of recognize it, say, hey, I don't know that, a lot about that. This is what I do know about it. The problem is, and see, that works. Whereas what doesn't work is to sit there and
bullshit your way
pretend like you know something about it by answering with a completely different answer than what they asked. And that's that's a mistake a lot of people make in a technical interview. I'll ask about, DOM-based cross-site scripting, for instance. And the next thing I know, they're giving me a lecture on what the DOM is. Well, that's great, but that's not what I asked
that question.
Just tell me, hey, you know what? I'm actually not sure how you would do that. Here's what I know about the DOM. And so I can kind of imagine that must be, some way to manipulate it. Now you've given me information that shows at least you understand what the DOM is. You understand what cross-site scripting is. You just don't maybe understand how to put the two together. Now, to be totally honest with you, the company I'm working for now, I went through a technical interview. There were two questions I completely did not know. I completely had no clue when I told them that. And I kind of speculated because I could tell by the name. Like one of them was about prototype pollution. And I'm like, okay, I know what a prototype is.
Right.
And you're saying polluting it. So I can kind of guess it might be. And I got fairly close. And I mean, I got done with that. I thought I bombed it. Well, I talked to the HR person the next day. They're like, no, he thought you were great and blah, blah, blah. And we've talked since I got hired. And he's like, yeah, I was just glad that you first of all admitted you didn't know it. And second, you used your brain and you kind of, you kind of dug into it. And I knew you'd be able to look it up and figure the rest out from there. So that's kind of the way to approach a technical interview, in my opinion. You're not going to know the answer to everything that they ask you. Just be prepared to admit you don't know it and to walk through it right there with them. Walk through and kind of, mentally process it out loud so they hear your thought process and they see, yeah, she's smart. She just hasn't heard of this thing.
For real. And that's, and the last note I'm going to give before I go, I've had that in the past. I did an interview with Cisco Talos. They were looking for somebody experienced in something that I was not in. I told them up front things I didn't know, things I did know, and they were up front with me. They were like, look, we think you have a lot of potential, but we need someone that can hit the ground running and doing this job without being trained the whole time. So with that, you're going to find those companies that are looking for those roles, and you're going to find the companies that are willing to train you and help you along. Just be honest. If you need to look it up, if you know you learned it and need to look it up, be honest with them. If they're not going to hire you because you have to look something up, deuces, there's the door. You don't need to work for them anyways, because you're trying to break through. You're trying to do big things. Don't let no's and things like that stop you. So, with that, we are going to end Security Happy Hour at later than I normally do. But it's been fun. It was a lot of information. Like I said, CyberWarrior Studios doing big things coming forward. I am looking for an app developer, and I'm going to try to do it myself as well. We'll see how well that works out. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell. Please follow these people on Twitter. If you need to find their names, go to the post that Alyssa sent out. And I will catch you all next time. Have a great evening. Enjoy the rest of your Labor Day weekend.
You too. Thanks for having me.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.